Hello everyone and welcome. Welcome to the wonderful world of astrology. And what a perfect day it is to talk about astrology with the moon strongly placed in the beautiful and sensitive sign of Cancer today. I'm Natasha Weber, better known as AstroTash, and today I'm going to talk to you about your astrological DNA and the current cosmic climate. But firstly, thank you. Thank you so much for being here and allowing me to talk about astrology, which is a subject that's incredibly close to my heart, and it's a subject that I do believe is so misunderstood. So, what is your astrological DNA? It is encoded in your birth chart. And I'm going to start my talk today by taking you through a little tour of the birth chart, describing its fundamentals and how they might make you tick. Just out of interest, how many of you here today have actually had your birth charts done? Okay, so quite a few of you will know a little of what I'm going to be talking about today, hopefully. Following on from that, we'll be discussing the significant upcoming astrological events, but we will be leaving Mercury retrograde for another day. Your birth chart is a map or a snapshot of the heavens at your exact moment of birth. Assuming that you are located in the centre of a 360-degree wheel, looking up at the heavens at your time of birth. So your chart's going to contain all of the planets and heavenly bodies, and not just your sun sign. Once we have all of the planets in their respective zodiac signs, then there's the cosmic interplay to consider. And that is how the planets are relating to each other in your chart, how their energy is being expressed for you. And that's determined by the mathematical relationship that each planet is making to the other. So you could say that astrology is the perfect combo, or a beautiful little cosmic dance between math, science, and the esoteric. Your chart is calculated according to your time, date, and location. So that's your latitude and longitude of birth, using degrees, minutes, and seconds. So it is very exact. This makes it highly unique and individual for you, because when you think about it, that moment in time that you were born has never happened before. And that moment in time and space will never ever happen again. So your birth chart is actually as unique to you as your fingerprint. Think about that. And if that's not enough to consider, we also have the houses contained in a chart. This is where the chart is divided into 12 segments or houses, each representing a different area of life or personal expression. So as you can see, your birth chart is infinitely complex. It does contain many contradictions and different layers, just like a human being does. A person can never be summed up in black or white, and a birth chart can help us to understand all of the grey areas in between. I'd like to begin to dissect the birth chart a little bit now, starting with one of the most important points, which is your ascendant sign. The ascendant is the easternmost point on the horizon at your time of birth. And astrologically speaking, it represents your physical body, your image, sometimes your health and your childhood. So it's how other people perceive you, your personality or your outer layer, if you like. And what's quite funny is that when I meet people for the first time, they will always ask me to guess their sign. And of course, they're referring to their sun sign. But in astrology, the sun represents our basic character. It's our vitality and our ego and how we wish to shine our light into the world. So if I've only just met you, I really don't know you well enough to know your character, so I'm unlikely to be able to guess your sun sign. I am, however, more likely to guess based upon your personality or your outer layer, which would be your ascendant sign. Directly opposite the ascendant in a chart, we have the descendant. And the descendant is opposite for a reason. Because if the ascendant represents self, then the descendant represents our relationships. And our relationships always provide a mirror that reflect back to us our self-love or our lack of it, don't they? Culminating at the zenith of our chart is the midheaven. And the midheaven is your profession that you're best suited to, your career, your reputation and your status. But more than that, the midheaven speaks of our vocation and our life direction at our greatest potential. The moon. The moon is a deeper layer yet again. The moon speaks of the essence of who we are. The moon is the private parts of ourselves, our emotional responses, moods, and feelings. For women in a birth chart, the moon can show how we are likely to experience the role of motherhood and how we are likely to give and receive nurturing and care. Mercury in your chart will show how you think, how you communicate, and your intellect. And Venus is love, relationships, and finances. Mars is our yang energy. It's our drive and our motivation. Mars is the planet of action and sexual desire. An afflicted Mars in a birth chart can show that you might need to work on developing assertiveness or confidence, and you may attract passive-aggressive types. Jupiter shows our areas for personal growth and expansion. It can show where we might find our luck and our opportunities, whereas Saturn is constrictive in its nature, showing our limitations, our lessons, and our self-discipline or our lack of it. Uranus is our rebellious streak and our desire for freedom. And Neptune speaks of our spirit, our creativity, our artistic talents, and our inclination towards addictions. Pluto is our ability to transcend, transform, and access our depths. The moon's nodes are amongst my faves in a birth chart, and they're related to karma and destiny. They are based upon the moon and the Earth's orbit. And there are always two, the north and the south node. The north node is the karma that we've been sent here to create. It's what we need to work on and develop in this lifetime. Whereas the south node is the karma that we've already mastered. It can speak of our past lives, our familiar zones, and what we are likely to slip back into in this lifetime. Of course, there are many other asteroids and points that can be looked at in a chart, but I'm really just wanting to give you the fundamentals given our time frame here today. I am going to throw in a little disclaimer at this point, and this is something that might surprise you coming from an astrologer. And that is that astrology is not the be-all and end-all. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be used as a fortune-telling device. And this is because free will and choice are always available to you. The ultimate decision rests with you. But what astrology can do is it can give you an idea of the cosmic climate with which you are working. It can show you when a difficult pattern or cycle is due to begin, and most importantly, end. And it can help you to optimize your most fortunate astrological periods so that you can make hay while the sun shines. And so we come to our upcoming new moon, which is on the 7th of March in the sign of Pisces. And what's interesting about this new moon is that it makes a strong connection to its planetary ruler, Neptune. Now, Neptune can be somewhat of a beautiful nightmare. And whilst Neptune is all about delving into what makes your spirit soar, Neptune can also speak of loss, confusion, and disappointment. And that feeling like you're in a fog, unable to discern fact from fiction. Do you know this feeling? I know I do. Now, it's fair to say that every planet and sign has a light and shadow expression. And I do tend to steer away from using the words positive and negative. So, it's important during this new moon to manifest the light side of Neptune so that we can avoid its shadow. My advice would be to write, paint, draw, sing, dance, create, go on a spiritual pilgrimage, read some inspirational material, do whatever it takes to exercise your imagination and your creativity and your spirit during this new moon, and this will be highly beneficial to you. Can I give you a golden nugget of advice? This is something that I'm very passionate about because it's always been my great interest to build that bridge between sun sign astrology and the more scientific ancient astrology from which sun sign astrology is derived. And that is when you are reading your horoscopes from the sun sign columns, and hopefully you're reading mine, please read for your ascendant, otherwise known as your rising sign, in addition to your sun sign. And the reason for this is because the way that us astrologers go about interpreting your horoscopes just lines up so much better with your ascendant sign, and you will get a much more accurate forecast. In 2 days, we have Chiron, an important healing asteroid, moving signs. And this is really exciting because Chiron moves signs so rarely. Chiron has been oscillating between the signs of Pisces and Aries since last year. But once it settles into Aries on February the 18th, we will be feeling this shift. And this shift will be felt on more of a global scale, more of an awakening of the collective consciousness. Chiron is the wounding that your soul came here to learn from. And in your birth chart, Chiron will show the nature of these wounds and how they are likely to be healed and expressed. When Chiron was in Pisces, and it still is for the next 2 days, we're all being asked to develop our spiritual selves, where we're being asked to acknowledge that there is more to this human experience than just what we can see, feel and touch. But now with Chiron in Aries, we're going to be asked to claim our inner warrior and develop our inner strength. We might be asking ourselves, who am I? Like, who am I really? Because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac and is very much associated with the development of your identity. 2 days after Chiron has moved into Aries, we have a beautiful full moon in Virgo. And this will be right after the sun has also just moved into Pisces. So what we'll have is a full moon in 0 degrees of Virgo, opposite the sun in 0 degrees of Pisces, connecting with Chiron in 0 degrees of Aries. Now, I will speak more about 0 degrees in a moment, but suffice to say that it is the beginning of a zodiac sign. So when a planet first moves into a new zodiac sign, it will do so at 0 degrees. So let me paint this cosmic picture or story for you. The moon is in Virgo. Virgo is an earth sign, and it's concerned with material stuff, what is tangible, and the human experience. Whereas Pisces is a water sign, concerned with our spiritual evolution our higher consciousness. But the universe is throwing Chiron into the mix, and Chiron is asking, well, who am I amongst all of this? It's discerning your identity between the physical and the spiritual, or between your reality and your fantasy, and quite possibly your delusions. Now, here comes the punchline. This will be the 4th full moon out of 5 consecutive full moons that will be in 0 degrees of a sign. And 0 degrees is also a power degree that speaks of new beginnings and the discovery of new territories. I should also mention that this is also a time to embark on your own healing journey, with a destination being empowerment and confidence in who you are and what you have to offer. Because Virgo is also very much about service and what you bring to the table. So, we find ourselves smack bang in the middle of a ton of new offerings and opportunities. But the question is, and I go back to my previous point about free will and choice, how will you choose to use the astrology to advance and to evolve? And in accepting a new beginning, we often need to close the door on what must end. Are you ready and willing to do that? Because, in essence, we are truly able to write ourselves a brand new script now. I'd like to thank you so much for coming. Of course, I'd love to reconnect with you beyond today on Instagram and Facebook at AstroTash. But until then, may the stars shine brightly for you all. Thank you so much.